The morning sun cast long shadows across the remote valley in Kazakhstan, where rows upon rows of industrial buildings hummed with the constant drone of thousands of mining rigs. To the outside world, CryptoVault Mining was just another cryptocurrency operation, one of the largest in Central Asia, processing millions of transactions and minting digital gold around the clock. Marcus Chen had built his empire from nothing. Starting with a single Bitcoin miner in his garage in San Francisco, he had grown CryptoVault into a behemoth that consumed more electricity than some small countries. The farm sprawled across 200 acres of barren land, far from prying eyes and regulatory oversight. But Marcus had a secret that went far beyond cryptocurrency mining. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday morning when Sarah Williams, an investigative journalist from the Financial Times, received an encrypted message from an anonymous source. The message contained a single line of text and a set of coordinates pointing to the CryptoVault facility. The message read, "They're not just mining Bitcoin. People are dying." Sarah had spent years investigating financial crimes, but something about this message sent chills down her spine. She had heard rumors about cryptocurrency operations being used as fronts for money laundering, but this seemed to suggest something far more sinister. 2 days later, Sarah found herself on a plane to Almaty, Kazakhstan. She had convinced her editor that there was a story worth pursuing, though she kept the details of her anonymous tip to herself. The coordinates led to a region known for its isolation and harsh terrain, perfect for industrial operations that preferred to remain hidden. Meanwhile, at CryptoVault, Marcus Chen was dealing with his own problems. 3 of his security guards had quit in the past month, and 2 of his facility managers had requested transfers to other locations. The latest departure was Ivan Petrov, a former military officer who had been with the company for 2 years. Ivan had been acting strangely in his final weeks, asking questions about certain restricted areas of the facility and requesting access to personnel files. Marcus had initially dismissed it as professional curiosity, but Ivan's sudden resignation and immediate departure from the country raised red flags. What Marcus didn't know was that Ivan had been the one to contact Sarah Williams. The CryptoVault facility was divided into several zones. The main mining operation occupied the largest buildings, filled with rows of ASIC miners that worked day and night to solve complex mathematical problems and earn Bitcoin rewards. The cooling systems ran constantly to prevent the equipment from overheating, creating a perpetual winter inside the buildings even when the outside temperature soared. But there were other buildings on the property, ones that didn't appear on any official blueprints. These structures were heavily guarded and restricted to only the highest level personnel. Marcus had told his employees that these buildings housed experimental mining equipment and research facilities for developing next-generation cryptocurrency technology. The truth was far more disturbing. Sarah arrived in Kazakhstan and spent her first day gathering intelligence. She rented a 4-wheel drive vehicle and studied satellite images of the CryptoVault facility. The complex was larger than she had expected, with multiple access roads and what appeared to be a private airstrip. She noticed something peculiar in the satellite imagery. While most of the buildings showed the characteristic heat signatures of mining operations, several smaller structures showed different thermal patterns. These buildings appeared to be heavily insulated and maintained at much lower temperatures than would be necessary for mining equipment. On her second day, Sarah drove to the outskirts of the facility. The entire complex was surrounded by a 12-foot fence topped with razor wire. Security cameras were positioned every 50 meters, and guard towers were manned around the clock. For a mining operation, the security seemed excessive. As she observed the facility from a distance, Sarah noticed something that made her blood run cold. A refrigerated truck was making deliveries to one of the restricted buildings. The truck bore the logo of a medical supply company, but something about the timing and secrecy of the delivery seemed wrong. That evening, Sarah's phone buzzed with another encrypted message from her anonymous source. This time, the message contained a detailed floor plan of the CryptoVault facility and a single photograph. The image showed a room filled with what appeared to be medical equipment, but the context was unclear. The message included a time and location for a meeting. Sarah found herself at a small cafe in Almaty at midnight, nursing a cup of tea and watching the door. When Ivan Petrov walked in, she recognized him immediately from the personnel photos she had obtained. He was a tall, weathered man in his 40s with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Ivan sat down across from her without preamble. "You received my messages," he said in accented English. "You're taking a big risk," Sarah replied. "Why come forward now?" Ivan's expression was grim. "Because I can't live with what I've seen. Marcus Chen is not just mining cryptocurrency. He's running one of the largest organ trafficking operations in the world." The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. Organ trafficking. "The mining operation is legitimate," Ivan continued. "It generates enormous profits and provides perfect cover. But Chen has been using the facility's infrastructure, its remote location, and its legitimate business front to run a parallel operation. The restricted buildings house medical facilities where organs are harvested and prepared for transport." Sarah's mind raced. The victims. Migrants. Mostly. People who disappear without anyone noticing. Chen's network identifies vulnerable individuals across Central Asia and Eastern Europe. They're promised work at the mining facility, but once they arrive, they never leave. Ivan pulled out a small USB drive and slid it across the table. "This contains evidence, medical records, financial transactions, shipping manifests. Chen has been moving organs to buyers around the world, using the mining operations logistics network and Bitcoin payments to hide the money trail." Sarah pocketed the drive. "How long has this been going on?" "At least 3 years. Maybe longer. The medical facilities were built shortly after the mining operation began, but they were always described as research labs. I only discovered the truth when I accidentally accessed a restricted area during a security sweep." Ivan's voice dropped to a whisper. "I saw the operating rooms. I saw the cold storage. I saw the bodies." What happened next shocked Sarah to her core. Ivan described a sophisticated operation where victims were kept in hidden sections of the facility while their organs were harvested by a team of medical professionals. The organs were then prepared for transport using the same logistics network that moved mining equipment and supplies. The Bitcoin mining operation provided the perfect cover. The facility's massive power consumption and constant activity masked the additional infrastructure needed for the medical operation. The remote location and heavy security kept investigators away, and the legitimate business provided a plausible explanation for the facility's wealth and international connections. Chen had been using cryptocurrency payments to compensate the medical team and pay for the organs. The transactions were virtually untraceable, mixing legitimate mining profits with blood money in a way that made detection nearly impossible. Over the following days, Sarah worked with Ivan to document the evidence. They identified patterns in the facility's operations, tracked suspicious shipments, and connected financial records to specific incidents. The scope of the operation was staggering. Chen's network had harvested organs from hundreds of victims over the past 3 years. The organs were sold to buyers in wealthy countries where patients were willing to pay premium prices for transplants without questions. The operation generated tens of millions of dollars in profit, money that was laundered through the mining operation's legitimate business activities. But as Sarah and Ivan gathered evidence, they also attracted attention. Chen's security team had noticed Ivan's continued presence in the area and had begun investigating his activities. Unknown to Sarah, her movements were being monitored, and her communications were being intercepted. The situation reached a critical point when Chen discovered that sensitive files had been accessed from Ivan's former workstation. A security audit revealed that Ivan had copied thousands of documents before his departure, including medical records and financial data that could expose the entire operation. Chen made a decision that would change everything. He ordered his security team to eliminate both Ivan and Sarah before they could expose his operation. The mining facility went into lockdown mode, with armed guards doubling their patrols and all access points sealed. Sarah and Ivan realized they were in immediate danger when Ivan's contacts within the facility stopped responding to his messages. They had perhaps hours before Chen's security forces would track them down. Working frantically, they compiled all their evidence into a comprehensive package that detailed the organ trafficking operation, identified key personnel, and provided documentation of specific crimes. Sarah prepared to transmit the story to her editor, but she needed to ensure that the evidence would survive even if she and Ivan didn't. Ivan revealed that he had been in contact with law enforcement agencies in multiple countries, but the investigation had been moving slowly due to jurisdictional issues and the complexity of the case. The evidence Sarah had gathered would provide the breakthrough that authorities needed to take action. As dawn broke over Kazakhstan, Sarah and Ivan made their final preparations. They had arranged for multiple copies of the evidence to be delivered to journalists, law enforcement agencies, and human rights organizations around the world. Even if Chen's security forces found them, the truth would still come out. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Chen's security team had tracked Ivan's vehicle to a remote location outside Almaty where he and Sarah were preparing to leave the country. A convoy of black SUVs surrounded their position, and armed men emerged with weapons drawn. But Chen had made a critical error. In his panic to silence the witnesses, he had acted too quickly and too openly. His security forces' aggressive response had attracted the attention of local authorities, who were already investigating reports of suspicious activity at the CryptoVault facility. As Chen's men closed in on Sarah and Ivan, Kazakhstani police forces arrived at the scene. The confrontation escalated quickly, with gunfire erupting as Chen's security team tried to eliminate the witnesses and escape. The firefight lasted only minutes, but it provided the distraction that Sarah and Ivan needed. While Chen's forces were engaged with police, Sarah managed to transmit her story and evidence to multiple news outlets around the world. Within hours, the story of CryptoVault's dark secret was breaking on every major news network. The international response was swift and devastating. Law enforcement agencies in a dozen countries launched coordinated raids on Chen's network, arresting associates and freezing assets. The CryptoVault facility was surrounded by military forces, and the organ trafficking operation was shut down. Chen himself was arrested while attempting to flee the country on his private jet. In his luggage, authorities found encrypted hard drives containing financial records that detailed the full scope of the operation. The evidence confirmed that Chen had been using his cryptocurrency mining business to facilitate one of the largest organ trafficking networks in history. The investigation that followed revealed the horrifying extent of Chen's crimes. Forensic teams discovered the remains of hundreds of victims on the CryptoVault property. The medical facilities contained evidence of systematic organ harvesting, with detailed records of procedures and sales that painted a picture of industrial-scale brutality. The financial investigation was equally damning. Chen had used his mining operations' legitimate cryptocurrency earnings to fund the organ trafficking network, while using Bitcoin payments to compensate his medical team and launder the profits. The blockchain records provided an unalterable trail of evidence that connected every transaction to specific crimes. But the most shocking revelation came when investigators analyzed the full scope of Chen's network. The organ trafficking operation had connections to criminal organizations across multiple continents. Buyers included wealthy individuals in North America, Europe, and Asia who had paid premium prices for organs harvested from Chen's victims. The medical professionals involved in the operation included doctors and surgeons from prestigious hospitals who had been recruited through a combination of financial incentives and coercion. Some had been knowingly participating in the trafficking network, while others had been deceived about the source of the organs they were transplanting. The investigation also revealed that Chen had been expanding his operations beyond organ trafficking. The remote facility had been used as a hub for other criminal activities, including human trafficking, money laundering, and drug distribution. The cryptocurrency mining operation had provided cover for a vast criminal enterprise that generated hundreds of millions of dollars in illegal profits. As the story unfolded, it became clear that Chen's operation represented a new evolution in organized crime. By combining legitimate business operations with criminal activities, and using cryptocurrency to obscure financial transactions, Chen had created a model that was being copied by other criminal organizations around the world. The international law enforcement response led to the dismantling of similar operations in other countries. Raids were conducted on suspicious mining facilities, and new regulations were implemented to increase oversight of cryptocurrency operations. The Chen case became a watershed moment in the fight against organized crime in the digital age. Sarah Williams's investigative reporting won international acclaim and helped expose similar operations around the world. Her work led to increased scrutiny of cryptocurrency businesses and new international cooperation agreements for fighting organ trafficking. Ivan Petrov survived the confrontation and became a key witness in the prosecution of Chen and his associates. His testimony provided crucial evidence that helped convict dozens of individuals involved in the trafficking network. The trial of Marcus Chen became one of the most closely watched criminal proceedings of the decade. The evidence presented during the trial revealed the full horror of his operation and its impact on hundreds of victims and their families. Chen was ultimately convicted on multiple charges including murder, organ trafficking, money laundering, and racketeering. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His associates received sentences ranging from decades to life, and the entire network was dismantled. The CryptoVault facility was seized by authorities and eventually converted into a memorial for the victims of Chen's crimes. The legitimate cryptocurrency mining equipment was sold, with the proceeds used to compensate the families of victims. The case also led to significant changes in the cryptocurrency industry. New regulations required greater transparency in mining operations, and international cooperation agreements were established to prevent similar criminal enterprises from using cryptocurrency businesses as fronts for illegal activities. The investigation revealed that Chen's operation had been active for nearly 4 years and had resulted in the deaths of over 300 individuals. The organs harvested from these victims had been sold to buyers around the world, generating an estimated $150 million in criminal profits. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the case was how close Chen had come to succeeding. If not for Ivan Petrov's courage and Sarah Williams's investigation, the operation might have continued indefinitely. The remote location, sophisticated security, and legitimate business front had provided nearly perfect cover for the criminal enterprise. The Chen case became a turning point in the fight against organized crime in the digital age. It demonstrated how criminal organizations were adapting to new technologies and business models, and it highlighted the need for increased vigilance and international cooperation in combating these threats. Years later, the story of CryptoVault serves as a reminder of the dark potential that exists when legitimate businesses are used to mask criminal activities. The case continues to influence law enforcement strategies and regulatory approaches to cryptocurrency businesses around the world. The families of Chen's victims found some measure of justice in his conviction, but the trauma of their losses continues to resonate. Memorial services were held in multiple countries to honor the victims and to ensure that their stories are not forgotten. The international investigation that followed Chen's arrest led to the discovery of similar operations in other countries and the development of new techniques for detecting and preventing organ trafficking networks. The case established precedents for international cooperation in investigating crimes that cross multiple jurisdictions and involve emerging technologies. Sarah Williams continued her investigative work, focusing on the intersection of technology and organized crime. Her reporting on the Chen case earned her numerous awards and recognition from human rights organizations around the world. The story of Marcus Chen and CryptoVault remains one of the most shocking examples of how cryptocurrency and legitimate business operations can be exploited by criminal organizations. It serves as a cautionary tale about the need for constant vigilance in the fight against organized crime, and the importance of whistleblowers like Ivan Petrov who risk everything to expose the truth. The investigation into Chen's network continued for years after his arrest, as authorities worked to identify all the victims and track down every individual involved in the operation. The case files eventually filled thousands of pages, documenting one of the most comprehensive investigations of organized crime in the digital age. Today, the site where CryptoVault once operated stands as a memorial to the victims of Chen's crimes. The memorial serves as a reminder of the human cost of organized crime and the importance of continued vigilance in protecting vulnerable populations from exploitation. The case also highlighted the crucial role of investigative journalism in exposing crimes that might otherwise remain hidden. Sarah Williams's courage in pursuing the story, despite the obvious dangers, demonstrated the vital importance of a free press in holding criminals accountable for their actions. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to FictionWire Crypto. This is a fictional story created purely for entertainment.